Peter Costello today made some stunning attacks against the Labour government. Very, very telling. But he's not the only one who's been able to make telling attacks against the Labour government recently. Malcolm Turnbull, Julie Bishop, Joe Hockey, the entire Liberal front bench and many of the backbenchers have laid telling blows against Labour policy and Labour actions. But the thing is that as telling as the blows that Costello makes have been, what is more telling is the way that the press have been able to manipulate that so that it seems as if every time there is a telling blow against the Labour Party, it becomes an attack against the Liberal Party. And in this case, it's said by the press to show disunity among the Liberals. No, it doesn't. Peter pointed out the obvious, Peter pointed out what was appropriate, Peter pointed out the failings of the Labour government, and he did so very, very well and quite persuasively. And I think it'd be very misleading to suggest that that means that there's trouble within inside the Liberal Party. What it means is there is trouble within Australia because the government is failing and has failed. My name is David Daniel Ball, and these are the headlines for Saturday, the 7th of March, 2009. Alan Jones returns to hospital. Cops hunt for US gunman who killed 5. Property sales boom in Western Sydney. Pakistan say attackers may be foreign. Zimbabwean PM wife dies after crash. Earthquake rocks Melbourne. $110 million palace not good enough for wife. 5 killed in US shooting spree. Pacific Brands workers walk out after Rudd fails to show leadership. And in comments, footwear problems. It hasn't been a great week for Peter Roebuck, whose sunny views about travel in Pakistan were undermined slightly by the murders of several police protecting Sri Lankan cricketers. Now comes a second Test century in South Africa by Maxville boy Phil Hughes, previously condemned by Roebuck. He sure can, from Tim Blair. I'm not the only one making fun of Al Gore during US coldening. Here's a recent Letterman top 10 things overheard in New York during today's snowstorm. Number 4, Gore can go suck it. Number 5, Starbucks is selling something called a slushy. Green Dean mean British politician Peter Mandelson arrives at a low-carbon economy summit only to be hit in the face by a custard-throwing green. Cow College Keith, Cornell grad and Coulter unloads on sorta kinda fellow Cornell grad Keith Olbermann, the guy who can't recognize a bogus Murdoch quote when it smacks him in the face. If you ever watch any 3 nights of his show, you know that Olbermann went to Cornell, but he always forgets to mention that he went to the school that offers classes in milking and bovine management. Cornell diplomas don't make any reference to individual college or major. They're Cornell diplomas, is Olbermann's response. Wine dog. Billy, this site's official dog, adds expensive wine to her usual diet. Note the Billy pillow, which our favorite dog reclines. Owners Craig and Karen made it from a polar bear. We Be Bad, sound advice for conservatives from Stephen Green. A few years back, television writer, producer, director, visionary Joss Whedon made a little libertarian-themed science fiction movie called Serenity. In it, our ragtag band of heroes make their way around the verse by trading freely when they can and by stealing from corrupt, oppressive central government when they must. Before launching a minor raid on a government stash of ill-gotten gold, Jane, the hired muscle played with an endearingly ignorant malice by Adam Baldwin, cocks his shotgun menacingly, is there any other way? And suggests, let's be bad, guys. Yes, exactly, let's. Suicide Central, an astonishing statistic. At least 58 people have committed suicide from Westgate since 2003. Why has it taken so long to install suicide barriers? I don't know, maybe Labour government? Readers are sought, a blog post by Crikey editor Jonathan Green from 2 weeks ago, who reads Andrew Bolt anyway. Comments? 2. Turnbull fisks Rudd, an excellent response to Kevin Rudd's absurd essay by opposition leader Malcolm Turnbull, even if a little late. Some highlights, well, you'll have to look at the
links for that.
Savers aren't losers. The astonishing pokey losses in poor suburbs help to explain why some of the poor are poor and will stay poor even after handouts of fresh cash. Green for get physical. Why is it that whenever you hear of a politician being physically attacked by a protester, you immediately conclude almost certainly of the left and probably a Green? Obama's snake oil, Charles Krauthammer on the fundamental deceit of Barack Obama. You'll have to take a look at the links for that. 3 Strikes Against Us, a modern tale of welfare, sexual depravity, and family breakdown. A teenage girl signed a contract with her stepfather agreeing to have sex with him so he could become pregnant and keep the child bonus payments. Mad not to believe in the apocalypse. Soon the warming inquisition will make it compulsory to be treated for global warming skepticism. This weekend, the University of West England is hosting a major conference on climate change denial. Strikingly, it is being organized by the University Center for Psychosocial Studies. It will be a gathering of those from the top of society, psychotherapists, social researchers, climate change activists, eco-psychologists, who will analyze those at the bottom of society, as if we were so many flitting irrational amoeba under an echo microscope. The organizers say the conference will explore how denial is a product of both addiction and consumption, and is a consequence of living in a perverse culture which encourages collusion, complacency, and irresponsibility. Oh, there's a lot more at that link. Keating warns, if Paul Keating is worried by Rotonomics, you should be alarmed. Former Prime Minister and Treasurer Paul Keating says fiscal stimulus is reaching its limits and even advanced nations are at risk of debt default if they continue to amass huge budget deficits and borrowings to rescue their economies. Let's sack the other 7,000 workers too, says Andrew Bolt. Now Kevin Rudd, desperate to find a greedy boss scapegoat, wants a refund of $17 million from Pacific Brands that could put at risk some of the very jobs he claimed he was trying to save in the first place. Revisiting Rudd's Dud Summit, Finance Minister Lindsay Tanner, perhaps the most impressive performer in the Rudd government, makes clear his disdain for Talkfest when asked whether we need another summit to discuss the financial crisis. And Andrew, on the matter of Lindsay Tanner. Tanner is highly lauded as an effective speaker, performer, so I listened with some interest the other day when he was interviewed. The issue of the government talking down the economy was raised and Tanner took an interesting tack. Tanner said that the opposition had been talking down the economy and so perhaps both sides were guilty of that. The assertion was accepted with Tanner's other arguments by the partisan media. I follow the Liberal Party closely in New South Wales and Australian circles, and I cannot find an example of Liberals talking down the economy when I filter out Liberals criticising ALP governance of the economy. Tanner's argument becomes irritating because no Liberal member would ever be allowed to make such a lazy assertion. Yet Tanner is lauded as ALP's most effective performer. We have Gillard, whose sole gift seems to be her capacity to talk into a policy vacuum, making bare policy shelves sound substantial. We have Rudd, who bureaucratically avoids any question with stuff and nonsense. We have Swan, who runs like a 20-watt light bulb, that is, how many times he asks what when a question is asked. But we don't have a free and capable press capable of getting the government to improve by asking pertinent questions and demanding appropriate responses. Joe Hockey is very effective, but all Joe needs to do to get the government diving into corners looking for excuses is to ask a simple question. Note how devastating Costello has been from the backbench, so that his statements must be diverted with irrelevant and old leadership issues. Yet again, a partisan press strikes for the ALP. The Christ hunting for 12 disciples, Barack Obama's staffing woes are starting to resemble an episode of Keystone Cops.